All right. Welcome, everyone, back to the Small World podcast. It's great to have you all here again. I do want to do a quick PSA before we get started. I'm still sick. So the last time we recorded, I was sick, and this time I'm still sick. So if I sneeze or cough or sound a little weird, that's why. My guest today is Richard Gong. He's the founder of Piggy Robotics, formerly studied at Oxford. Super nice guy, and probably the most interesting in terms of like product company we've had on the podcast so far. So I'm going to let Richard get into it, but I'm really excited to just talk about what he's building and how he sees it shaping the future. So, Richard, please tell me about your company.
Yeah, so we at Piggy Robotics, we build humanoid robots to do your chores. And where we're different, instead of we using like electric actuators, electric motors, we use these artificial muscles. And these muscles allow our robot to be much, much cheaper. So like if you try and build a humanoid like Tesla Optimus, like your hip actuator would, if you try to buy one, might be like $200. Um, And then for the whole humanoid, you need 20 in the body, 25 in each hand. And if you do the maths, it will come to like $10,000 in actuators. Whereas our humanoid, the muscles are really, really cheap. And we ended up building a humanoid in 3 months for less than $1,000.
Interesting. And my first question, as I was just writing stuff down for more questions later, my first question is like, how'd you come up with the idea for muscles, right? And how did you produce this technology?
Yeah. So the story sort of begins when I got accepted into YC doing at the time using 3D Gaussian splatting to generate like we are going to generate 3D scenes. And we're trying to sell this to humanoid robot companies. Spent the almost the entire YC batch trying to sell things to humanoid robot companies. But at the end of the batch, I just decided, okay, these robots aren't really that mature. Like we still have a chance. I just want to do this myself. So decided to become a humanoid robot company. And we were still purely in software at the time. And the plan was to deploy a humanoid robot into a factory. So I ended up spending an entire year going around factories, living in some of them, trying to deploy a humanoid robot. But just before we were about to buy a humanoid robot for like $200,000, we decided, okay, that's probably not a good idea. Like the terms weren't that good. The robot wasn't very reliable still. And the robots that you could buy just weren't that good for useful work. And the robots that may be good for useful work, you can't really buy. Unitary robots dance very well. You can buy them, but and the 1X robot, the Tesla robot, you can't really buy. So 3 months ago, that's when I said, okay, we have to do the hardware ourselves. And I had like designed an entire humanoid robot using normal electric actuators. But like all these companies like Unitree, the founders were like building the actuators themselves. Like they were winding the coils around the magnets in the early days. And 1X, who used to be called Halodi Robotics, were also they were an electric actuator company. So they just have a massive cost advantage, whereas we'd have to buy our actuators from a supplier. So the conclusion was we had to find like a different path. And me being from a medical background, so I studied medicine at Oxford before I started my company. I tried to look for different solutions, and this artificial muscle came up, and I started prototyping in my apartment. And in the early days, it was me in my apartment. Like I'd order like 30 packages online, and like I'd have to spend like half an hour trying to find these packages in the shared package place. Um, I take it upstairs. I start prototyping. I even short circuited my apartment, and
Damn. Was
the
this
nothing
in
was working.
England or is this in the United States?
No, this was actually in China. So I ended up taking a trip to China. I was trying to build robots in the US, but the parts would arrive like far, far too slowly. Like it would
Got
take
it.
weeks to arrive.
So this is
So
during your year where you're still like going to all the factories, right?
yeah, yeah, and a lot of these factories I went to were in China. Well, simply because like
Yeah, that's
no
really
factories. Yeah. So yeah, I ended up prototyping in my apartment in Shanghai at the time, and the muscle works very well. Like you could lift like several kilograms with like a muscle that was 10 grams in mass and only a few millimeters in diameter.
Wow.
Um, and so I prototyped the first hand and elbow joints, and my co-founder like went to like a robotics competition, bought bubble tea for all 300 participants. We ended up hiring 12 people, like 12 top-notch engineers from that competition.
Mhm.
And like after that, it went quick. Like we built the whole humanoid robot for less than $1,000 in just 3 months.
How were you able to afford 12 top-notch engineers?
Yeah. We hired new grads, so like people who are about to graduate or had already graduated, and the robotics competition was a very strong filter. So like for this competition, you had to pull all nighters all the time. So you end up with a lot of people with a lot of grit who work very hard, and because they are either about to graduate or haven't graduated yet, you get engineers for much better value, and you get people with a mindset that's fresh and less stubborn, and they're willing to try new things.
So definitely, if you were to do everything again, you would go back and hire new grads to help you develop the robotics.
Yeah, I mean, we did that the first time, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You would do the same. You would do the same.
I mean, if I were to go back and do it again, I would just work on the hardware earlier.
Mhm.
Like I think a lot of it, like a lot of the pivots occurred, like they could have happened much earlier, but just required slightly more courage. So
Mhm.
like before doing this, I had no hardware experience. So like it took a lot of time to just convince ourselves that we could work on hardware and like compete against these people who have been doing it for many years.
And that's a really good point to take away, right? Is a lot of people are too scared to pivot. They feel like it's a failure, or they feel like they're just not ready for it. Like you said, there's just kind of like the fear of change, right? I think most companies, especially startups, need to realize like when there's not a product market fit, you need to pivot and you need to pivot fast, right? And YC really encourages that too. And I'm sure you were already out of YC when you pivoted, right? But I'm sure they were very supportive of it if you talk to them, right?
Yeah, yeah. YC is generally very supportive of pivots. Like it's it's quite funny when everyone goes into the first group session and like everyone thinks they have some kind of unique idea, and then the group partner says, "Oh yeah, someone tried that last batch and it failed." And then like pretty much the entire group ends up pivoting in one way or another. Like yeah, in fact, pretty much everyone pivoted very massively in my group at least.
That's really interesting. I think people from the outside think the people in YC, they got it all figured out. Nah, it's not like that at all. So how many pivots did you do total? I think you did mention multiple, right?
Yeah, I think like big pivots were from trying to sell to humanoid companies to a humanoid software company to a humanoid company, including the hardware. So I'd say two major pivots since I started YC.
That's big. And now going forward, right? We got where we are now. What do you need to work on to have a product that is in everyone's house, right? What's the next step towards the ultimate vision?
Yeah. In terms of the hardware, we're trying to get our second version out by the end of the year. And the main barriers are just customizing all the components. Like Tesla in the early days, they would have realized, oh, we can't buy any actuators for humanoids, so we have to develop it ourselves. We're in a similar situation, but with much less capital. We have to develop these muscles from scratch, like the material for the muscles, the valve that controls the muscles, and the pump, all of that from scratch. So there's a lot of uncertainty in that, like all of these components, you don't know how big they'll be yet. So when you're developing the whole humanoid, you there's a lot of variables you don't know, which makes developing the frame for the humanoid quite hard. But once these are all figured out, like you know exactly how big the valve will be, exactly the properties of the muscle, and exactly how big the pump will be, you can develop a very good frame through a humanoid that you can start making it walk around and do chores.
Gotcha.
The milestone is to have it walking around and doing chores in our own 6-story mansion that we house our team in.
6-story mansion. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. We ended up renting like a 6-story mansion or hacker house. Everyone lives there, and we'd be our own first customer. Like we have someone doing the chores, the cleaning, the laundry right now, the cooking. But we don't want our humanoid to be able to do all of that for us first.
That's very cool. So, how good is it? I guess I'll ask at doing the chores right now. How do you tell it? And then after you tell it, how well does it know what it needs to do? And how often does it execute the task that it's told to do?
Yeah, right now it's all teleoperated. We It cannot walk at the moment. To walk, we need it to be much more stable. Your muscle needs to the control of the muscle needs to be very accurate, and then you need the software for it to know how to balance. But we are able to teleoperate the upper body, and in our video you can see it like wiping surfaces and moving the hands. So right now we're able to do things like wipe the table, but it can't move around. So we're very much still focused on getting the hardware stable before dedicating too much time on the software.
Got you. The video that you're referencing, by the way, is down in the description, guys. So go check it out. It's about a minute and it's really interesting. I saw that you're putting the robot in kind of like a cradle right now.
Yeah, it's on a gantry, and yeah, the reason being it is can't walk yet or balance. So
Right. Okay. So essentially that's kind of like the next steps there. And then where do you see this 10 years from now? What's the vision for Piggy Robotics when you guys finally develop that final product?
yeah, we want a humanoid in every home, right? And we don't want it to be like a 10 grand or 20 grand or like a 50 grand robot for, for like your upper class people. We want it to be accessible to like everyone, like in developing countries too.
Mm,
Just liberate everyone from chores. And for me personally, like imagine you're playing tennis, you can't find someone to play tennis with. Well, you can have this robot just play tennis with you. You can have it pick up the balls if you're playing tennis with someone. There's so many things that you imagine you don't really think of having someone help you do. Like, but with humanoid robots, you can start to be like more lazier than you imagine. And if you think from an energy perspective, like like we're gonna use more and more energy in the future. Like it should be growing exponentially, really. Like how are you gonna use this energy? What are the ways of like manipulating and moving matter? Well, a humanoid robot allows us to do that far more efficiently.
yeah,
You
that makes sense. And you use the word lazy, right? Like
mm,
people can be more lazy. I feel like more efficient, right? I'm
yeah,
not picking up tennis balls. I'm hitting more tennis balls. I'm becoming a better tennis player. No,
yeah,
it makes perfect sense. And I guess my other question there too is, well, okay, two questions. I'll ask the first one first. Why do you want it to be less expensive? I'm sure from a financial standpoint, it probably makes more sense to charge 5 to 10 grand. So why are you aiming for like 1 to 2 grand?
yeah. Well, simply because you can so much more of it. Like I think almost there's like almost no upper limit for the number of humanoids you can have. Like you can flood the world with humanoids. There's so many things to do. Like if you imagine like right now, if you go to desert regions or like terrain with very deep in the forest or like deep underwater or like in the middle of the Pacific, there's like no one there. There's no infrastructure there, right? Like imagine that in the future you can build like a massive solar farm in the middle of the Pacific, like all along the equator. Like you can build like there's people, SpaceX trying to send people to space, right? But there's so much places on Earth that aren't really accessible yet. And I just imagine a future where humanoids are everywhere, maintaining infrastructure, building new infrastructure.
You
And
know, it's kind of painting a picture for me now, and I'm getting excited, right? Like sending people to Mars, for example, is a one-way mission, right?
mm,
But it make it a lot easier for them to do their job if they got sent with like 50 of these humanoid robots, right? And you don't have to feed them. I mean, they consume energy, but you know, they don't need food and they don't have emotion, maybe, hopefully, unless it becomes sci-fi, right?
yeah,
Um, like you said, like different terrains as well. That'd be really cool. Now I'm seeing everything. Another thing as well is like emergencies, right? So firefighters, for example, earthquakes, right? Like if someone needs to run into a burning building or if someone needs to find people in rubble in a dangerous area, now all of a sudden there's a lot of application there.
Yeah, and also like, yeah, I guess if we get into more of the imaginative side of it, like a lot of human knowledge is trapped as know-how, like in your brain. Right? The carpenter who is very skilled,
Mm.
and the guy who knows how to like work, use the machine tools. Knowledge in books don't really encode that, but once you have these humanoids, like all this knowledge is going to be stored in software.
That probably scares a lot of people, though. I'm sure a lot of people you probably tell this idea about, and they look at you like that sounds dystopian to me, and I'm going to be out of a job.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like history is all history back. It's all like different groups of people fighting for their own interests, and like maybe this faction works out, and like there'll be humanoids everywhere. Maybe like another group wins out, and then you ban humanoids. Like it's entirely possible. And there's no right or wrong side, right?
Yep.
Like everyone's sort of fighting for their vision of the future. There's nothing wrong with that, I think.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong to fight for yours. And there could also be a middle ground, right? Like maybe humanoids are kind of set at picking up tennis balls, but they're not allowed to play tennis, right? And we kind of keep it there. So I wanted to talk about competition as well because you're not the only one in this space. Neo recently kind of made waves. I know their robot is more expensive, but now they're on the market and supposedly their robot can clean things. I've seen videos of it not doing a good job of that, but that's by the by. How do you expect to compete in this market that seems to be pretty saturated with a lot of very strong players?
Yeah. I think my favorite humanoid company, other than us at the moment, is Neo. Like, I really think they've done the best. They've made the best choices. Like, every other robot is either too heavy or just not suitable for work. Like, one of my biggest grievances why I'm doing hardware in the first place is I couldn't buy a humanoid that I could picture doing useful housework. The Unitrue G1 just doesn't quite cut it. Like, I very much see this as a guerrilla war. Like, obviously, we have far less. We have far less capital. We have less talent at the moment, and we've been working on this for far less time. But this is very much a long game. It's still going to be a battle 10 years later. So like I I've come to like believe that like advantages right now shouldn't sort of discourage you. Like I think it's very much about building the most efficient humanoid robot organization. You want to build like a small scale organization, like the most capital efficient humanoid company at a small scale, and then just scale it up. Like I think if you do that right, you can certainly go against the giants. Like, and that's how a lot of, I mean, that's the whole thesis behind startups. Like you build like a more effective organization than the incumbents, and then you,
It's a disruptor.
yeah,
Yeah. I also wanted to talk about like this is powered by AI. The robots, their brain, quote unquote, is artificial intelligence, right? Are you gonna have each robot have like individual brain, or is it gonna be like a hive mind almost? You get what I'm saying? Because I'm thinking like if one robot learns how to scrub a table really well, why can't all other robots also learn it from this like one big cognitive brain?
yeah. Um, I think for practical reasons to begin with, it would be each robot having its own brain. Um, like you can just think of FSD as Tesla's FSD as an analogy. It might not run on edge though, so it might not run on the robot, but it'll be one model, like one instance of the model for each robot. Like yeah, like just it'll be one model controlling one.
Fair enough. I was having like a cool hive mind idea,
Yeah,
but then probably that also like prevents them from taking over the world if that ever happens, because then they could all rally together into one. So fair
yeah.
enough.
Like from a research standpoint, Like the next step for like individual humanoid robots, I guess, could be like the hive mind or something like that. But and you get Skynet and you get Terminators. But
Yeah, do people ever like when you tell them about what you're building, just give you a look like, oh my God, you're gonna be the guy who like gets us all killed by robots?
not really, because I spend most of my time just around engineers. I think there's probably a large number of people who would say that. But I think since I've just spent so much time just locked up in the mansion with the team, I you sort of get stuck in a bubble where you don't really interact with well like you don't really interact with people who don't want to build robots, I guess. And maybe it's good to go out and interact with a wider range of people, I guess.
Well, next time you're in well, actually, next time I'm in San Francisco, if you want to go out for drinks, I'm more than happy to. I'll introduce you to some people who will definitely be scared of your ideas.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that'd be
that
cool.
would be a lot of fun. So, moving to the other side of the world, I want to step away from Piggy Robotics for a second and just talk about you. You're from the other side of the world. You're from England. You left Oxford, you dropped out, so did your co-founder, and now you're here. Do you miss home? How do you feel about that?
Yeah. I quite enjoyed growing up in the UK. Like, there was like a great massive like forest right next to my house and like a massive outdoor sports center and like another massive forest next to that. It was a great place to like go on runs every day and like it was very relaxed. I don't think it's a place for ambitious people though. Like you get like even at Oxford, like very much remember getting like a lot of advice from all the students, like a lot of like work life balance kind of
Mm.
lectures and like oh you shouldn't get too stressed, that kind of thing.
What's your take on work-life balance?
I mean if you enjoy what you're doing, like then I guess you don't really need work life balance. And I think in Europe and the UK, like a lot of these companies are very much incumbents. Like it could be like a company that makes needles or valves, and they were like competing for the market like 100 years ago. But now they have some sort of monopoly. So it's okay if people just work 8 hour days, 5 days a week, or less than that. But if you're in a new field like humanoid robots, electric vehicles, or AI, then if you're not working more than your competitors, your company is going to die. Um, yeah.
So, how many hours would you say you're working per week?
Um, yeah, it's hard to say. I'm like pretty much every day. I take short breaks occasionally on Sundays and go play tennis. But if we do like 12 hours a day for like 6 days a week, probably more than 80 hours, 80 hours.
So, for all the investment bankers feeling sorry for themselves out there, don't feel too bad. Richard's out here doing more than you guys. And we could also call the tennis playing like that's like application research or something, for
Yeah,
one
yeah, yeah.
loss.
Everything comes under work. Like if you live in the mansion, then like if you're eating, you're doing work because you're thinking about how the humanoid is gonna track your movements. And if
That's
you're
true.
walking around the house, you're thinking, how should this humanoid be walking? So, and if you're sleeping, you're thinking, how should the recharging go?
You see a mirror and you're like, oh shit, I wonder how are we gonna program it to not run into the mirrors?
Yeah,
I saw Neo do that recently. That's why I bring that up.
yeah.
Uh,
I think the Neo, the like you see the videos of it taking a long time to fetch like a bottle of water or put things in the washing machine, but I think that's mainly going to be a software issue. And once you solve some of the software issues, it can be much faster. And the same with all other humanoids.
yeah. And the fact that it's already out there, like we know it's gonna get better over the years.
Yeah,
The
and it's
fact
the
it's
worst.
already out there. Sorry, say that again.
It's the worst it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's only going to get better from that.
The future's here though. In a lot of ways, the future's here. It's really exciting. But yeah, Richard, we are coming up on time. So I promised you half an hour. I'm gonna keep it at that because I know you're super busy. But I want to close the podcast out by saying thank you so much for hopping on. It was a great time chatting with you. I can't wait to see where Piggy Robotics takes itself in the future. I can't wait to have one or two of your products in my home doing my chores because I hate chores. And yeah, thank you for hopping on the pod.
Yeah, I enjoyed having um on the post being on the podcast.
Awesome. All right.